So the first tactic is called deal, DEAL. The first thing is the distraction, a straw man. You bring up an unrelated fact and make it seem relevant. What does this mean? If you're talking about environment and economics, you bring up a political fact and you try to make that like it's really relevant. And you distract them from arguing about things that would hurt your case. So as a debater, you have to know what's important. They bring up something that's not related. You don't want to spend a lot of time debating something not related. Stay on topic, stay on task. Exaggeration. You take one case and make it seem like it's all the cases, where the extreme is the normal. You gotta recognize when someone has an argument that's an extreme case. Uh, Gambling. You take one criminal activity and you make it seem like it happens all the time. This poor girl got kidnapped at the casino and she got held for ransom and she took drugs and you throw all these things that was one case where it's actually a very small extreme situation and you make it seem like it happens all the time. Watch out for exaggeration in arguments. Third thing is antagonize. Antagonize means you make someone annoyed or upset. And so if you don't have anything to say about an argument and it's a very good argument, you attack the argument as baseless and ill-constructed, meaning there's no proof, they're making an argument that's not factual, and you just demand that they come up with more facts. Sometimes what happens in the debate is people forget you said this. And so the next person gets up to talk, and then he doesn't do anything. And so your next speaker comes up and says, my last speaker said their argument was baseless and ill-constructed, and they had no reply because their argument is baseless and ill-constructed, and they have nothing to say about that. There's no proof. See, what happens is you turn the burden to them. Oftentimes, when you have these kind of attacks, you say that the burden of proof is not on my team, the burden of proof is on their team. As a judge, I often have to decide are they saying the truth or not, because sometimes they're just saying something and it's not the truth. Lastly, you always lead with your argument. So you always lead with your attack and you always finish with your attack. Because people remember the first thing they hear and they remember the last thing they hear. So whenever you debate, if you say it often enough, people remember what they hear. If you say it often enough, people believe it. So if every speaker in your team says the same thing over and over again, it's like Trump and election fraud. You say it over and over again, people start to believe it. So the rebuttal for this first argument about the environmental government argument, if they say people need money and jobs to survive, your rebut is if the environment is poisoned, there will be no jobs forever in a region. So once you poison an environment, like you poison Rayong, you have to clean Rayong up before you can start up again. And once you damage Rayong, people are scared. They won't want to come back. The principal level, it sounds good to clean the environment, but money talks. Then you make the rebuttal about how much money will bring back dead animals and dying people from pollution. So you make the argument about things that cannot be fixed with money. They talk about how the father makes money. If you have a bad environment, there's no job, and the father might become sick. They talk about how the family can go to school. Well, if you have a bad environment, there'll be no school. They talk about people pay taxes, but the city has a responsibility to pay to clean up the environment. And in order to pay to clean up the environment, they often might have to raise taxes to cover the environmental damage. They talk about the state, coordinate government services. Well, you can't coordinate government services if you had to coordinate government services to clean up the environment. They talk about the country is wealthy. No environment is always going to be no wealth. They talk about international. And the fact is, people won't come to a polluted country. You don't see people going to America to see 3 Mile Island after a nuclear disaster. You don't see people going to Japan to see Fukushima after the nuclear disaster. That stuff doesn't happen. That's how you rebut the arguments from the government team. On the case with this House privatized the supply of water, the opposition says the duty of the government to support the people. Water is a necessary item. People cannot live. The rebuttal is the price can still be low, but by privatizing water, it becomes more efficiently run. And this unburdens the government to do other things than run the water supply. It frees up resources and people to do other things in government. Government says private corporation runs a faster and more efficient system. The rebuttal from opposition is private companies work on profits. They maximize profits, not savings for the people. So when the government says that privatizing water will make it cheaper for the people, that is very doubtful because companies work on profit. In the motion, this House believes going green and banning fossil fuels is the future. The rebuttal to going green, that is expensive, is you talk about the long-term benefits of going green will outweigh the cost of fossil fuels and the damage to the environment. Because once you set up going green and everything is functioning properly, there is no more cost. And that's why you save money in the long run. And in the short run, you also benefit the environment. The rebuttal to the government argument that fossil fuels wreck the environment, the opposition will simply say it's a myth that fossil fuels damage the environment. There have been only a few accidents in the past, and the burden is on the government to prove otherwise. This is called pushing the burden. We talked about that in the deal argument. The opposition side will talk about a rebuttal saying that fossil fuels in the past have not really damaged the environment. This House supports geothermal power. The opposition says there's only certain places that can have geothermal power. The government will rebut by saying not every geothermal plant is vulnerable to earthquakes and cause side effects. Geothermal plants can be dug in different places. So the government pushes this idea that you can build it in different places. Once built, the geothermal power is basically free. The rebuttal from the opposition side is geothermal technology will always need maintenance and the energy is not limitless. It doesn't have enough energy in the long run. On the motion, this House believes government should focus on environment over economics. Let's do the rebuttal from the opposition side to government saying a focus on environment and promotion of ecotourism. The rebuttal is economics leads to jobs and services that are just as attractive to tourists. So people want a five-star hotel, they want infrastructure, roads, and modern joys. So you can promote the natural environment, but you also have to have the economic background behind the economic environment. The nice environment like Hua Hin, you gotta have the nice hotel for the tourists to come and stay. Rich tourists don't want to stay at a shanty or a village.